Oh, hello. It's all quiet and silent there. Welcome to Lightbox, the official podcast of Wanimate, the West Australian animation of the. I'm already off. Yeah.
Well done.
There we go.
Have a drink of water. Have a drink of water straight out of the gate. The West Australian Animation Association. Whether you're an aspiring animator, a seasoned professional, or simply a fan of the magical world of animation, you've come to the right place. My name is Tanya Beeson.
I'm David O'Connell.
And I'm Linsay Flay.
And we'll be your guide in this... Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah. And we'll be your guide on this monthly journey into the heart of the animation industry in Western Australia. Each month, Lightbox will bring you the latest and greatest in animation news, from upcoming films and shows to industry discussions that will inspire and empower the talented animators who call Western Australia home. So we'll also delve into the creative processes and challenges faced by our local animators as they work tirelessly to bring their unique visions to life. So buckle up and get ready to be amazed as we explore the vibrant, ever-evolving world of Western Australian animation. This is Lightbox, and we're just getting started. We wish to acknowledge and honour the traditional custodians of the land we are streaming from, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation. We recognise and celebrate their enduring culture, the rich tapestry of Indigenous arts, and the invaluable contributions they make to the vibrancy and cultural diversity of this city and region.
Okay, and before we dive into today's content, I'd like to issue a quick advisory warning. Look, while our channel is generally suitable for most audiences, there may be occasions when we delve into topics or showcase content that might not be appropriate for younger viewers. Look, we do strive to create engaging, enjoyable content for everyone, but sometimes you could be advised that some material may not be suitable for children. Okay, so parental discretion is advised, and we encourage you to review the content before sharing it with younger audiences. Our goal is to provide a safe and enjoyable viewing experience for all, and we appreciate your support in that regard.
Awesome. Cool. How is everyone?
Yeah, all right.
Busy. It's very busy at the moment.
It is the beginning of the year, and like anything for people in any sort of education areas, it's a bit of what they colloquially call a shitstorm. But it'll get sorted, and we'll get out there.
Early semester chaos.
Right. So, what's on in the news? Obviously, the big news is that it's award season, as it always is at this time of year. Yeah. Let's talk about the Oscars.
So we've had the Oscar nominations for Best Animated Features and Best Animated Shorts that were announced a few weeks back. So I'll just go through the features. Sorry, the shorts. We haven't seen a lot of you yet, but hopefully we'll get a chance sometime before Oscars. I'm kind of hoping Luna does what Luna usually does and shows a collection of the shorts if they can. So for the Best Animated Features, we've got Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, The Boy and the Heron, Robot Dreams, Elemental, and Nimona. And as we're talking about the best of last year, you may hear one or two of those coming from us later on this show.
Oh, yes. That's we'll definitely add our conjecture, our ideas, our thoughts as to who might win. Definitely got opinions. I've seen all but one of those 5 films. And that fifth one, I kind of surprised is there. Really
surprised a lot of people that one's there. Yeah. It really has.
Because it was snubbed by the Annies, so yeah. In favor of an international film. So.
Yeah, Suzumi. Yeah.
Okay, so next week.
Yeah. Animal Logic merged with Netflix. So this one's your house.
Well, I used to work at Animal Logic between 1993 and 2006. So The good old days, as they might have referred to it back then. So when I joined it in the early 90s, it was largely doing TV commercials, and I think I was about the 13th or 14th people to sign up to it. It was a small, little, ambitious production studio. Within a couple of years, was a couple of dozen people, and then it, just kept growing and growing. So yeah, Animal Logic was sold to Netflix 2 years ago, I think, and supposedly Animal Logic was going to keep its independence. Owners my old boss, Zare Nalbandian, bought a $6 million Venice home from the proceeds of the sale, which was a bit of news for me. He's still continuing with his live-action indie film company, Truant, which was sort of formed right when COVID hit, which was great timing, I guess. And there's an Animal Logic Entertainment, which apparently is a spin-off, which is used to produce the Peter Rabbit films, and apparently Ron Howard's new animation film, which is The Shrinking of Treehorn, of which I know nothing about. So what's happened just recently is that Netflix Animation, or Animal Logic, has been merged with Netflix Animation, and the local CEO of 20 years, Sharon Taylor, who I've probably met, but not as a CEO, so she would have become that after I left, I guess. Sharon Taylor has gone, and she's been replaced by Netflix Karen Tolliver. So kind of discreetly checked around the traps, and it seems to be a fair bit of paranoia around the locals there concerning the fate of the Sydney studio versus Vancouver. Bit of paranoia as you get with these sort of things. But it's hard to say. Both studios enjoy exchange rates that work in their favor and a certain distance from Hollywood. But the time difference in Sydney seems to be freaking people out. They're worried that because it's so out of whack with the United States, it might end up getting, B-listed or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's probably a bit early to say. But it certainly gave me a thrill of terror when I heard that a large international outfit had basically absorbed one of our local stars. Felt a bit like Autodesk buying Softimage, and then 2 years later Softimage gets quietly taken out the back and put down. So a lot of us were weeping over that one. It felt eerily the same. But anyway, never mind my anxieties. Most of these studios, like Animal, were mostly international anyway, because most of the people I dealt with were from all over the place. There was certainly a strong Australian component in there. In fact, the only demographic that seemed to be lacking for a Sydney studio was people from New South Wales. Most of the Australians seemed to be all from interstate. All the Sydney-siders seemed to have their eyes on LA, and everybody else in Australia had their eyes on Sydney. So it was kind of a strange mix. But at the same time, Netflix has sacked over 3/4 of its staff recently, so I expect it's becoming a production studio with some high-level executives, and they're just farming out the production to overseas people, I guess. That's what it feels like. So it's the old model where you have a production house that has like 5 or 6 office bearers, and then when something comes in, it swells to a couple of hundred. It produces the stuff, and then they'll disappear after their contracts end, and it goes back to like 6 office bearers minding the empty store again. So,
Surely there's moves to stop the movement of work out of cities into like the sweatshops of like Southeast Asia and India.
Yeah, I wonder. I think it's prestige, that keeps that stuff going. But all you have to do is just check out the credits of any production to see where they've gone.
Yeah.
So, India is still the flavor of the month. Well, not flavor of the month. It's a fairly articulate, skilled workforce and cheaper to employ than, say, anywhere else. So, there's a lot of... We've dealt through Wanamate. We've dealt with people that basically deal with Southeast Asia and stuff like that, partly because they're frustrated by the lack of talent in Australia, and partly because where else are they going to go? So it's tricky. So, I mean, this is one of the reasons why we're lecturers, right, Tanya? Building up the local industry from the grassroots. So certainly one of the reasons why I'm here. So
and it's not like Perth is starving of work. We did get a lot through, and we actually, continually have employed animators here. So,
that's certainly true. So Yeah.
I think there's a kind of an outside view that we are maybe because of our isolation a little bit quirky and creative in that way.
We're the regional centre that's not so regional centre.
Yeah.
Look, even in the late 90s, there was a perception around the traps where I was working, not just the studio I was in, that we were referred to as, or seen by the our American benefactors
Yes.
as white Mexicans. You know,
Nice.
oh, it's a foreign country, but don't worry, they're white, they're Christian, and they speak English. You know, it's like, oh, phew,
Wow.
that's a relief. And it's not a very flattering view, but yeah, I kept thinking of that reading this. Actually, all those attitudes came flooding back. So yeah, interesting. I mean, when I work. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, just the question. So, having worked there previously, have you heard any inside goss? Like,
Not really. I haven't been there for 20 years. It's a whole different firm now.
True.
There's some old regulars that I've recruited to become judges at various competitions for Wanama.
oh, we need to talk about that.
Yes.
Actually, did I add a slide?
Not included.
What about that slide?
Oh no.
It's a 3:30 animation competition. It's coming up. Yes, for
This is an emergency backup slide, by the way. When in doubt, pull cord.
Oh no,
slide.
she had it there. I'm impressed.
I was ready because I knew Travis would nag me about it.
Well, that and dealing with students at the beginning of semester, you have a few things tucked up your sleeve and you suddenly realize you haven't finished your PowerPoint. So,
True. Oh, okay. Hold on. I'm just gonna disconnect my Discord because I can hear people chatting in the background. There we go.
that's us.
Tick, 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 tick. Yeah. Okay. So, the 3:30 animation competition is coming up. Just be aware of it. Of course, you know the deal. 3 months to produce 30 seconds of polished animation for all sorts of prizes. We've got some judges going on. The team are out there hunting around for prizes and judges and going crazy. So it's going to be a big fun year for the 3:30 competition this year. And yeah, I'm going to see a ton more productions come through, hopefully. And yeah, so if you are a company, a local company, a Australian company, an international company who wants to have a stab at the open prize pool, we encourage that. We definitely would like to see those of you who have been basically doing advertising for the last 15 years and want to do something creative. Here's your opportunity to drop tools for a little bit and have some fun. So get involved. There was an announcement. Were we allowed to talk about the fourth category?
Fourth category?
In the 3:30.
Oh,
I don't think we've finalized that. I don't know if we are yet, but maybe.
It's proposed and theoretical, and we're humming and hawing about it. Would be the official line I would say at this point.
Okay.
But it's something we're thinking about.
Right. So
You can throw it to the audience and see if they take to it or not.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us if you think you know what the category is for the 3:30 and where it's gonna go. Exciting. Okay. So, what's coming out soon?
Okay, so we've got a fair few things that have already come out recently. So we've had The Storm, which is a Chinese animation that started a couple of weeks ago now in cinemas. We've got Masters of the Universe Revolution, which is, I think, 5 episodes only for a season, but it's been well regarded. That's showing on Netflix. Four Nights of the Apocalypse has launched recently on Netflix, and Peppa Pig Party is, I believe, now showing in cinemas. And finally, Orion and the Dark is also started streaming on Netflix recently.
That's the one that appeals to me the most, Orion in the Dark. It looks good. I kind of...
Good writer behind it. Is, God, I've forgotten the writer's name at the moment, and that's... But responsible for adaptation and, a few others. I'll do that while you...
I'll do it while you're talking.
Okay, it's about 3 writers, but Charlie Kaufman's the one I'm thinking of.
Okay.
And that's kind of a surprise that he's generally a highbrow, like John Malkovich, and that sort of like
Eternal Sunshine
cinema is what he's normally responsible for, and he's doing an animated feature. Scripting an animated feature is a bit of a surprise. So that should be good. So that's those are already out. So what we've got coming still for this month is Howl's Moving Castle and Princess Mononoke double at the Luna on the 12th.
Local for us, yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh, it's fast turning into the old Orpheum or the Valhalla from.
Well, it's always been that kind of model. The Luna has, if it can get cult films, it's always going to be there, giving us some great stuff.
Oh yeah, Queer Film Club have pegged a few films to see. Unfortunate choice of words there, Tanya, but
that is a bit, yes.
But yes, we're also looking at a bunch of.
So on the 15th, we've got Inspector Sun and the Curse of the Black Widow. That's Spanish animated, kind of a detective thriller set around a world of 1930s, 1940s technology, but with bugs and the like there instead. Looks more aimed at children than anything else. Dragon Slayer to the Mashira training is showing on the 22nd, which looks to be a compilation Dragon Slayer film. So it's the final part of the current arc to that series. We've got Star Wars The Bad Batch Season 3 starting on the 22nd. And
the final season.
Yes. And those that have seen the trailers for that, there's an interesting returning character from the Clone Wars coming in.
Yeah.
So, that should be curious.
Like, how the hell are they going to explain that one?
Yep. Also on the 22nd on Disney, we've got Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur Season 2.
Yes.
And we've got the Pixar Film Fest coming to a number of theatres. Which
finally.
A lot of films that were released during the pandemic but didn't really see cinematic release at the time because of quarantine.
All those
so
are
we've
worthwhile.
got Soul. Yeah, we've got Soul, Turning Red, and Luca hitting cinemas for the first time, and they are some great films. So
I will definitely be seeing Turning Red and Luca. I love those two films so much. Soul, it's pretty good. I may go and support because like those filmmakers, they sort of lost out when they didn't get their cinematic releases.
They got stiffed basically.
Yeah, so and Turning Red definitely needs that. It's next.
It's a great teen flick.
Next month.
I'll go through the details on that because I've got February 22nd to February 28th. Soul is being shown with the short Burrow. 29th to March 6th, Turning Red is being shown with Kit Bull. And 7th to 13th, Luke is being shown with For the Birds as a short.
Interesting that they chose For the Birds because For the Birds is one of Pixar's oldest shorts.
Is that the one where they're all on a telegraph pole or something?
Yeah. And if you're talking about Spark Short, any of the Spark Shorts, like one that fits, there's another one that fits with Luca. I forget what it's called. I'd have to check the name of it, but there's definitely better choices than For the Birds to be shown with Luca, especially when you're talking about just awesome friendships and stuff like that. So, and acceptance in a strange place. Yeah, there's a theme there.
There certainly is.
Yeah.
I'm going to massacre the name, so apologies for this. Iwaju. On the 28th at Disney, and it looks like a dose of Afrofuturism, so that should be quite interesting.
Oh, there it is. Sorry, I had in the. I knew I bought it in the
there
slide.
We go.
It's there. It's the top corner.
Yep.
Yeah.
And finally, on the 29th, Combat Wombat back to back. So it's a sequel to Combat Wombat.
I didn't see the first one, and I need to. Like cheesy Australiana is totally my bag. I think there.
I have to say they look a little bit better than Kangaroo Beach.
Oh, like kids these days don't know what it's like to they have Bluey, but they don't really know what it's like to grow up with cringe Australiana like the Europe Cross films.
They don't know how to grow up without the ferals.
Oh, the ferals as well.
The ferals.
Yeah.
How could you live without the ferals?
Oh, yes.
Deprived. It was great.
Yes.
Good, genuinely subversive television with a Muppety edge.
Yeah. Kind of surprising that it actually got shown at all, but
I thought it was right on track. It felt like it slotted right in at the.
Oh yeah, it was. But it would also, you could imagine the letter writing campaign or the email campaign against it nowadays. Surely
that would be a badge of honor, I would think. Because I remember the Merry Heart
complaints about it. I'm pretty sure someone accidentally watched Meet the Feebles. Like.
Yeah, true. It was outclassed by Meet the Feebles, I must say.
Yes,
but I know which one I'd prefer to watch.
Like in terms of like audiences, the animatronic Chuck E. Cheese performances were lower brow than the episodes of the Ferals. So
yeah,
and creepier.
But and elder days, when we're all chasing woolly mammoths, the Merry Whitehouse factor was a key motivating factor for a lot of animation and kids film producers. If you got Merry Whitehouse upset, you were on the right track. And so,
hi, I'm Shira, and I'd like to talk to you about bullying.
Yeah.
Yes, every cartoon had a moral thing.
We are going to have to talk at some stage about children programming in the 80s and the sort of Teutonic shift that allowing toy adverts to run for half an hour kind of became.
Pretty much.
Is that the perfect episode to get Travis Johnson on?
Could well be.
And I think you should contrast it with the School of Cosgrove across the pond.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think that's an interesting comparison with those two. So, for those who don't know, Cosgrove Productions did things like Banana Man, Mighty Mouse, Danger Mouse, a whole pile of other little bee animations for kids that just grew in stature over time. But they were pretty good.
Okay, so we've wandered off topic and onto.
Of course we have.
So it's probably time for a monthly topic.
Already onto the. It's not really a debate this week. We just thought about the topic for this month, award season. So we have a few topics that we want to save for later in the year. But of course, with an award season, we really want to talk about what was the best that we watch over the year. So should we open with you, Dave?
Okay, so let's look back. For me, I keep saying it, we're living a golden age of streaming and geekdom. So even if you can't kind of see the cracks starting to appear and, it's certainly feeling like we're moving down that ladder than going upwards. But at the moment, we're still living in the good times. So as such, seems to have taken a lot of sequels as my pick for best of the year. So we've had strong second seasons from Spy X Family. We've had the excellent second season and conclusion to the sci-fi techno thriller Pantheon come out last year. Invincible continued its blood-soaked deconstruction of the superhero mythos. And of course,
Yeah, another one.
Another one. It's been a lot since the
Okay.
80s. We're just catching up here. And and Lower Decks continued being exceptional in season 4 and actually get some recognition thanks to a live action crossover with Strange New Worlds that brought it to the attention of a lot of people. So we've also had new stuff like Blue Eyed Samurai, Scavenger's Reign, which I haven't caught up with yet. I've seen the first episode and it's delightfully twisted, sort of Mobius kind of stuff. And
Got my eye on that. The minute I saw the trailer, it reminded me of the old Savage Planet.
It's definitely into that weird
73,
biotech sort of.
And Mobius feel is definitely up your alley.
The OMS. Remember the giant blue OMS? It felt like that.
Yeah. And of course, the other thing that's appealed to me of late, but I think that might actually just snuck in the end of last year, beginning of this year, is Delicious in Dungeon, which is a Netflix anime that is delightfully low-key, but kind of a cross between Dungeons and Dragons and Iron Chef, if you can imagine it. But so with that, the movie for me this year has got to be Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Look, it's a sequel, but it hits the high watermark of its predecessors and even manages to go beyond it. I just kind of love its inventive mix of animation styles, and so it even more so than the first manages to take that to new realms. Hobie's mixed media look when he's there, and you can kind of see almost newspaper cutout design to him at places, and the spots beautiful lurch into black and white ink Rorschach sort of style of world is fantastic. But I think what really cemented it for me and what I fell in love with it for was Gwen's color palette reflecting her emotional state in her world and just flowing to the world around her. That was just fantastic. I think the main flaw in this is that it's a bridging film. It's a central piece, so it's really is dependent upon how the conclusion goes, and it's going to be a while before we find out about that. But you know, as so far, it's filled me with a lot of potential, and I love the look of it, and I thought it was a good follow up to the first movie, and deserving of the praise that it's getting. So for series for me, and as I said, continuing with that sequel vibe, Vinland Saga Season 2. This is a vastly different beast than the first season of Vinland Saga. It's moved from Witch Studios to Mappa Productions, which... Okay, on a tangent, Mappa has had some accusations of a bit of a toxic workplace culture leveled against it for a few of its other productions, and demanding excessive amounts of its workers, even in Japanese culture. So that's something. So we'll see how that goes in the future. But as far as the production goes, it's absolutely beautiful. So this is an adaptation of Makoto Yukimaru's manga, whose previous work was Planets, which you might have remember the anime for that as well. So after the bloody events of season 1 and their cataclysmic conclusion for the central character Thorfinn, this series does something I've never ever seen before. It actually takes an entire season to pause, readjust, address the events of the previous season, and change the motivations of the character. Season 1 starts off as this bloody revenge epic, which is fairly standard Japanese manga fare, but that's set in Viking period. Season 2 sees the character completely destroyed by the ending events of season 1. His purpose has been blown out of the water, and he is depressed, dealing with PTSD, trying to understand his actions both going forward and deal with the amount of death and destruction that has been caused by his hands in his past search for revenge. It's a very slow, methodical piece, very different. But what it does is it builds tension beautifully as it adjusts the characters' motivations. And about midway through, you've got this Jenga tower of various characters' interests that's going to cause bloodshed and destruction on the farm that he's working as a slave on. And it's just tense seeing that kept in pace for episode after episode when you know there's an inevitable fall going to come. And it hasn't yet done that. I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen a work that's taken that long a time to delve into the motivations of a character and the changing of the character's motivations and handle it that complexly. And it is grand to see it actually do. The other thing that's really interesting about this season and the series, now, if someone could tell me about it, I'm sure it's an animation saving technique in Japanese animation of, you know how they'll often focus on a piece of scenery while a conversation's happening between two main characters, and the conversation happens over the scenery. And you can see how it started initially as a cost-saving device, but it's become pretty much a genre trope nowadays. And that happens a lot in... well, a fair bit in Vinland Saga, but the way they cover it is instead of necessarily focusing on the scenery, they'll actually focus up close on the character, either the eye or a lot of hands, and you actually get to see the weathered effects, the tipped nails, the calluses, the lines on the hands, the small scars from those hands, and it brings you back to fact that they're workers, they're toiling the land, they're doing all this. It's a very rural setting, and it's just beautiful seeing that sort of little detail that it focuses on while they're discussing these, vast, complex, bits of emotion. That's good. So if you haven't seen either of those, if you haven't seen Vinland Saga, I'd highly recommend it.
Okay.
It is certainly something.
Well, Spider-Verse is of course amazing. I love the worlds that they've put out there through the second film. I was disappointed because my favorite Spider-Verse character is Spider-Ham, and they totally didn't include him in the second movie. And I know he's going to be in the third movie, but I'm hoping they don't put him in the background like they did.
Spider-Ham. I remember him well.
The amazing Peter Porker.
Yep.
They had a lot going on though,
bitten by a radioactive pig. Is that right?
Can't remember what it was.
Generally, he's still bitten by a spider.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, so on to you, Linz. Let's talk about what you've seen.
All right. So a fair while ago, I saw The Monkey King, which is Netflix animation. And I sort of I've been chasing up on a few monkey stories, I guess. And the first thing it reminded me of was Kung Fu Hustle. And it turns out Stephen Chow, who directed, or rather produced and directed, did he direct? Can't remember. Kung Fu Hustle. It has that same sort of vibe to it. It's this kind of weird mix of martial arts, magic, and a Warner Brothers cartoon. And one of the characters definitely reminded me of one of the characters in Kung Fu Hustle. It's about the Monkey King hooking up with a kid, and it's got the usual life lessons and all that before he signs up at the very end to join up with the Fab Four to go west to pick up the scriptures. So that's Tripitaka, Sandy, and Pixie, for those who don't know. I thought it was okay. It had the usual, acrobatic hijinks you see in a kind of family-friendly animation. There was a few bits, and I thought, that's a bit different, but overall, it didn't quite grip me as much as I thought it might. they have things where he's, has a mountain dropped on him for 500 years. So it includes all that sort of stuff. So it's set in his early story. So for those of you who were brought up on the 80s Monkey show, the opening titles where we get an introduction to Monkey, this is where that story is set. So there's there's no Pigsy or Sandy. Yeah. So it's about him eating the peaches and getting dropped on. The other one I saw was Elementals. I saw it on the big screen. It's okay, but it kept reminding me of The Good Dinosaur, actually. It's like there's some high-level concepts there that just didn't seem to find their way.
That's with
not sure what it was, but I just felt.
I really like the character design in The Good Dinosaur, but it's
that's what I mean. It's like
utterly unforgettable. Yeah.
It was a bit blah in the end. It was like after all that, I think, oh, it didn't cure cancer. What's going on, Pixar? That's so. The other one I saw was Pluto, which is the old, I guess, Astro Boy Grimdark remix. It's okay. I thought it's all right, but very long and drawn out. I guess I was thinking of Pluto when you were describing Dave Vinland, but. My feeling was when I was watching it, they could, there's 15-minute episodes or 50-minute episodes. You could probably cut half an hour out of each one and nobody would notice the difference, which seems to be a modern trend in anime these days, around talking about stuff shots. I'm thinking, come on, guys. Oh, dear.
Yeah.
And when it came to like overseas stuff, like someone that looks suspiciously like Saddam in a country that sounds suspiciously like Iraq, I was thinking, this is starting to feel a bit tone deaf in places. I felt a bit awkward.
It's like if you were worried about that, check out the original Sultan.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the original manga was written 20 years ago, so it fits into
20. I thought it was much older than that.
Like 20. It's more than 20.
More like 40.
No, Pluto.
From the
original
Pluto
Pluto.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I find when anime gets out of its local turf, it really shows its lack of insight, shall we say. I'm kind of used to the prejudices of Western cinema. It's kind of a bit strange seeing it come from another territory. So yeah, it was okay.
I've seen the Japanese King Kong movie though. Yeah. Let's not go there.
Oh, dear. So it gets a bit messy. So
yeah,
it was okay, but it didn't really strike me, and I don't think I'd sit through it again, to be honest. But the old 80s references and stuff, and were kind of nice. I like the way they portrayed Astro and his sister. I thought that was kind of nicely done. They felt less like robots and more like replicants, to be honest.
Uran and Atom, as they call them in Pluto, was so nicely done. Like Uran was a great character in the original series as well, and I loved that they managed to keep her heart and I'm not sure whether this was intended, but I always see, Uran as the successful robot as opposed to, whereas Atom, Astro Boy is the first attempt at that.
Yeah.
So she's I know he's the hero, but she's actually the more human. She is the one with emotions.
She's more human than human, to borrow an advertising slogan from Toro.
True.
Like I say, it felt like a film full of replicants, not robots.
And that is certainly deliberate in Pluto, because you do see that her empathy is a driving factor, and her emotional intelligence is a massive driving factor for her as a character.
Yeah, definitely. So the rest are just on the still to see. Scavenger's Reign I want to check out because of its subject matter. It just looks pretty trippy, and it's set in outer space, so that's pressed all my buttons. Want to check out the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem?
It's great.
Interesting.
It's
really good. Really good. Nemona's caught my interests.
Nemona's great as well.
Yep. And Scott Pilgrim Takes Off is something I should probably check out, if for no other reason than to stay relevant with our classes. see how the current crop of kids cope with their parents' animation. And so
I don't. I still hate Scott Pilgrim as a character, and people tell me that that's the intention. You're supposed to hate him, but I don't.
Yeah, I know, but it takes 3 or 4 volumes to get to that point. It's like unreliable narrators are fine, provided we have other characters to sort of set against them. I guess I don't know. I should really sit down and read it someday.
What did you think of The Boy and the Heron?
Oh yes, that was the other one I saw on the big screen as well. Yeah, it's definitely a thing. Miyazaki feeling a little unrestrained on this one. Like most of his prior stuff, you'd see things like the characters are stuck in a bathhouse, or they're stuck in a forest, or they're stuck in something. Whereas this one, he's got this free multiverse to kind of roam around in, and it's sort of got a bit all over the place and lost its way a little bit. I think I felt with some of his prior work, the fact that he was working to some restrictions made them really work. Like the fact, the characters in the bathhouse from Spirited Away really shone. Or there's that lovely moment in the forest with, Totoro and waiting for the bus. I mean, it's just beautiful and minimal, and it's restricted. Whereas when you can go anywhere and do anything, which this one tends to do in its weird open netherworld, it just felt like it started to meander a bit. And I actually found there was some slow, not dull bits, but slow, like, this needs a bit of tightening up or something. Definitely, it feels like the realization of his childhood, and the tones and feel and soundtrack and all that stuff is just immaculate. I mean, this is a guy that really knows his stuff. It's, his experience is ingrained. It's got the comfortable ease of an old chair, that sort of stuff. So the first half hour I thought was just magic. And then there was the next half hour was like, seemed to lose a little bit of momentum, and then it sort of picked up a little bit at the end. But it's interesting. It's definitely worth seeing. I'm glad I saw it on the big screen. So I might dust off my bus tickets and train tickets and get off and to the Lunar and check out the other little Pixar films coming along. I saw Soul. Soul's not too bad, but that's a couple of years ago, I guess now. So interesting seeing Trent Reznor's name in the musical credits, because it didn't sound anything like what I imagined Trent Reznor to do. He's certainly becoming a full range as a musical composer.
As a film composer, he's quite different than how
I love his film stuff. It's just gorgeous. So it's interesting. It's got the usual hijinks and self-discovery and stuff like that. So it's like Inside Out for grown-ups, I think. What else was there? There was Turning Red. Yeah. Awesome stuff.
Turning Red is great. It's my favorite.
Oh man, it's like, wow, this is a really good teenage flick. It's like, it's the perfect 13-year-old film made for 13-year-olds. It's certainly not talking to me, but I certainly appreciated it. It was really nice. And just a great metaphor to use too, as well, I thought.
I love Luca as well. It's fun.
I haven't seen that yet. That's on my list as well.
Yeah, definitely see Luca. It's more up your alley, but along the same tone as Turning Red. So
and metaphors as well, maybe.
Oh, definitely a lot of metaphors. Yes. Cool.
Yep. So they're the ones I've basically seen. I've got to catch up with my streaming, but I'm finding it hard to find the time to commit. Really.
Yeah.
I have to confess, confession time. I did resort and saw I got Disney Plus to catch up with all these Pixar films, and I sat down and watched a Star Wars series. So I'm sorry, everyone.
Which one?
I saw as long as it wasn't Boba.
I saw Andor.
Oh, yeah.
And I was thinking, this is like Rogue One, the prequel. Yep. And then about 2 or 3 episodes in, it started turning into Blake 7. I'm thinking, okay, I'm totally getting into this now. And so...
little Blake 7.
Evil Federation?
So,
Is that person a kind of blonde Servalan, or am I imagining things? And I just imagined the hijinks and the power plays in the Imperial Security Center was exactly what I would imagine a character like Blake 7 Servalan to cut her teeth on. So I really got into the whole Empire shenanigans in the background there. And just how the way they just ran everything into the ground, really. So it was good. And then they have a kind of prison breakout scene with Andy Serkis. It was like, oh, wow, this was not what I was expecting. So overall, I was saying, of all the Star Wars spin-offs, series, fried chicken exports from Disney Plus, this is the one I've actually kind of found the most interesting.
Yeah.
I noticed it was a very Brit production.
Yeah.
Had a strong 2000 AD feel. Or am I imagining things? Definitely coming from a slightly more dour, less classical golden age sci-fi background, that's for sure.
Yeah. Prove there's something other than pulp that can be done in the Star Wars universe, and I thought that was a very important thing for it to do.
I think so. So I found the characters interesting. Kind of felt a little Marxist in some places as well. And they had this kind of strange mix of Middle Eastern contemporary modern city crossed with old British tenements to produce a kind of strangely British Empire colonial vibe to the whole thing, which I thought was interesting.
They're the only one of the series that didn't use the volume to the same degree. So they actually used real world locations. So
it did feel very live, I have to say. I was thinking, wow, this is either really they've got this whole volume thing down pat, or someone spent a lot of time and effort making stuff.
Then it's the one that doesn't use the volume.
Location shooting,
yeah. I noticed there was lots of old practical props, like sticky tape, tubes, and bits and pieces, like very original 70s. I'm thinking, interesting. I can get back to that.
Well, definitely an interesting thing to be said about volumes at the moment.
Yeah. So
anyway, let's talk about my picks. Okay, so over the holiday break, I saw Robot Dreams. And it is amazing. So Spanish-made film, set in Manhattan. Story of a dog that buys a robot for company, and it's based off a manga by Sarah Vernon, I think her name is. It's just really nice character piece. There is absolutely no dialogue. It just tells the story purely through action and expression, and a couple of well-placed disco numbers through the soundtrack. It's set during the 80s, and even though there's robots, so the alternate 80s, and the dog does go to a Radio Shack to get his robot.
Well, you could get robots at Radio Shack back in the 80s. They were just crap.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Beige plastic, anybody?
But due to circumstances, there's a separation, and the robot gets stuck in a location where its only interaction with the world is basically dreaming, and that's kind of the title of the film. And it is so nice. Just it's not an overly happy film. It is a little bit melancholy, but it manages it in this nice subversive way, and it just feels it's really harnessing on that sense of belonging. Where do I fit? What do I want to, what do I want to be? What do I want to do with my life? It's a really, really nice piece, and definitely deserving of a lot of the accolades that it's getting. It's disappointing to not see it on the best lists, but I'm also disappointed to not see Tatina up there, since I worked on that. But yeah.
Actually, Robot Dreams has been on a fair few best of year lists.
Definitely.
Circling around, so that's
it definitely deserves the accolades. It's really, really nice. Okay, so along the same lines is Carol and the End of the World, which Netflix series. So it's available. Watch it now. It is slow paced. Interesting thing that the three animations TV series that we kind of picked were the slow paced ones. They're not really. Carol is, of course, really, really delving into a dark area when it's thinking about, because the whole plot is Carol is dealing with the existential crisis of what does she do when the entire world knows that the world is going to end in 6 months' time, and with the planet that's coming and crashing onto Earth, and so they have a defined deadline, and everyone goes out and tries to party her life, and she just wants to live her life and just do what she's always done to make it comfortable. And it's kind of starts. It feels like she's disconnected from humanity, but as it gets deeper and deeper into the story, you realize that she is still connected to humanity in a really deep and secure way, and she uses it to make deeper and stronger connections, whereas everyone else is just being frivolous around her. And it's amazing. And there's an episode where you see the contrast of her sister, who is traveling around the world just partying her ass off, and Carol, who finds in the middle of this apocalypse an accountant's office that's still working, and continues, and she just gets a job there, and it's just so nice. It is the end of the world, and of course, and so people are, there's services that are just shut down, and but they're making do, and it's really, really interesting to watch.
I've seen the first 3/4 of it. I've got to finish off the first pilot. So I think the first thing that put me off was the character design initially. But once I actually sat down and watched it, I was like, okay, so this is all in context now.
Yeah, that character design seems weird and strange, but
feels very
kind of
graphic
works.
art. Yeah.
It
does. I mean, my first impression was, this feels like the millennials have just had their first midlife crisis.
The main character is, in her early 60s, and she's just dealing with the end of the world. Like, she's an older woman, and it's amazing.
It's really unusual.
Yeah,
so I find that was different and interesting. But yeah,
I'm watching, and she's struggling, and she's trying to connect to people, and she's dealing with difficult family. Her
parents are just living large, shall we say.
Her parents are living large, big time. And it's just awkward.
I found it really funny, actually.
And she's just walking around with a pantsuit on and just trying to do her job every day. It's great. It really feels like this bundle of happiness and support and love, but with a definitive end. I really hope they don't do a second season.
Well, they shouldn't. It's essentially these final hours, but a completely different take on the topip.
Yeah, I'm hoping, because it is listed as a limited series, I think, not a season 1. So, but yeah, definitely deserving of some sort of recognition. I loved it so much, and seeing an older woman in her in the later stages of life as the main character is just so good.
Yeah, it's certainly different, and I've got to say, it's really nice to see animation spreading out now.
Yeah.
It's like when you were talking about adult animation and mature animation, this was what I was sort of imagining, something along these lines. Not something that's basically juvenile with lots of R-rated stuff, because, hey, we can now. It's adult in the sense of 15-year-olds, but...
it's not the old young adult audiences.
It's totally it's an animation for middle-aged people.
It's not
it really is. It's kind of, and I'm curious to see what young people think of it, because I can't convince any of them to watch.
What? It's anime, kids.
Yeah.
Or the oldies die in the end.
Well, you look at what they're expecting. Older characters like Rick from Rick and Morty, or Grunkle Stan from Gravity Falls. Like,
And also,
that's what people think
most-
of older characters. And
they're over the hill and out of date and to be discarded. Whereas, most anime characters or most animation characters are, yes, your life is worth living. Here's a life lesson for you to have an infinitely long life. And of course, that's not the case, is it?
And the supporting cast, who you don't get to really, outside of Carol's family, you don't get to meet the supporting cast until like episode 4 or 5 of the 8 episodes. So it's really, it really takes its time to get you in that headspace and deal with loneliness at the end.
It's weird that seems to be our common themes for series. Is something that takes its time to get into it, is very introspective of the central character.
Well, it's a little bit like doom scrolling, I think, for some people.
It was if you're talking about Pluto in that regard, like Pluto, I liked Pluto, but I really needed Astro or Atom to be the main character.
Yeah.
For
this, I mean, it's all relevant. Whereas with Astro and talking robots, it's like I say, you could chop 20 minutes out of it and no one would notice. And whereas this one, if you chop 20 minutes out of it, seemed a bit frivolous or a bit surface.
It's weird. I didn't think you could miss that 20 minutes in an episode with Pluto. I kind of liked its extended format. I liked that it took the time to develop character and develop themes.
But it's like, well, there's that old dilemma when you're making films, I guess, is where when you're putting together a film, it might be fast-paced, but you're suggesting all that atmosphere and stuff through the way you cut it together and your art direction and your camera shots and stuff. You don't have to wallow through it, literally. It's like, because we have CGI, we can realize everything, so therefore we must. Like, actually, less is more often.
It's a fine line. I think you have to to walk though.
It's how you set up and stage your storytelling, and so it's. And I thought Pluto was like, why am I here? Wind it up.
It definitely felt like a stronger anchored story than the original 2-episode arc of 80s Astro Boy, and which was drawn from the Tezuka manga. But I'm
not trying to get the full benefit.
I wasn't sold by the modern redesigns of some of the robots. Like Mont Blanc, I definitely liked. Atom, Astro Boy, and Neuron definitely.
They definitely were the heart of it, and that was when it really came to life for me.
But the others are, see, I only remember the original names of the robots. So Molnar, what was it? North 22, Molnar, the
something like
robot. That. Just slight redesigns.
The fact that they were so human and they'd go off and step into a robot shell seemed a bit strange. But I was half expecting them to sit down on a chair and say, right, I'm going to switch my controls to the new robot. Clink, and they just transfer to a new shell. And as far as these robots are concerned, these shells are just drones. They just drive around. They switch between them.
Modern sci-fi thing where the robots or the drones or the AI switch bodies and things like that.
So in a sense,
that's a big thing of the culture novels. So where the ship can be a drone, or it can be the ship, or it can be its own. And
I noticed those science fiction stories made a big difference between a mind, which is actually sapient sort of intelligence that can think for itself and is aware and conscious and empathetic, and an AI, which isn't, which are mere AI, where I'm a mind. And they made a big distinction between that. So, ChatGPT would just be an AI that does stuff, and it's basically a spreadsheet, some glimmers of intelligence, whereas a mind would actually be a thinking, rational being. Like Uran would be a mind.
Yes.
Albeit a very small one, but it would still be a mind. because she doesn't worry about calculations. It's all about her insights and her wisdom and her emotions and stuff. And that was a nice thing.
Yeah.
Whereas, the detective, the Caucasian or token Caucasian detective,
Who
felt
was-
very
who
much
was,
like a cipher. And
I-
I couldn't get into him. But I could get into Uran and Atom. So they were interesting characters. They bounced off their humans much nicer.
In the original, well, I keep saying original, but the 80s wasn't the original. But the 80s version, the robot was
Second
gold,
animated version of it, yeah.
just the gold coated robot, because he had that special coating that they kept talking about in the
That's
Pluto
right.
anime, but you didn't really see. Yeah.
Yeah, which felt a bit like, well, am I supposed to relate to this guy as a human or a human simulacrum or what? Yeah.
No,
So
you're
I didn't
right,
get any of that in
it's-
Carol. Carol, everything. There's nothing redundant in Carol. So, but yeah, it felt like you've got some high-minded concepts in the old Pluto thing, but needs a few rounds on the old golf course, I think, before it starts scoring a few holes in one. Yeah. Anyway, that's my jaundiced opinion.
Yes. And we've got to the end of our slides and conversation.
Bang on 1 hour. Well done.
Yay. That's nice.
Indeed.
Nice and tight episode. It is just us talking. There's no extra person. So
True.
It hasn't stopped us previously from
No, that's true.
True. But, once again, the topic of AI is sitting at the very edges of things.
We are going to have to tackle that at some point.
Well, there's a lot of backlash to it.
Actually, it's an ongoing conversation we need to have with it.
It's true. It's true.
Because it's mutating so fast. It's like the weather.
And then, well, they reckon they're so close to general AI that
I think this is one of those things that no one's going to really know until in hindsight, I think.
Yeah.
We can predict all this stuff, but if something is that big a paradigm changer, then what we feebly extrapolate into the future is going to become largely redundant, or it's like us trying to think linearly, and it's just a parabolic or a hyperbolic thing. If it does change society in a way, we just probably can't predict it, but we'll be able to 2020 it afterwards and think, oh well, of course it was like that, but not beforehand. We don't have the tools yet to work with. So.
I mean, the way it was best described that I heard this morning, actually, I was watching a breakdown. AI is here to stay. The difference between the white collar jobs that disappear because of AI are like lawyers who use AI are going to still exist against lawyers who don't use AI. That's just the nature of it. It's very,
it's
very
potentially going to replace management.
Yeah.
So, oops. Elon.
Yeah.
Look out, mate.
Well, the interesting thing about any sort of technology leap like we're about to have is that it furthers the divide between the rich and the poor. It doesn't close that gap. It never has. It always pushes it apart. And it's
You've got a few people changing positions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's only social efforts that bring it back into the.
Unless they all turn into communists or something.
Well,
Isn't that what the culture novels were saying? They were essentially a communist utopia. It's funny listening to reviews written by libertarians writing about the culture novels. E&M Banks deserves to go bankrupt. On principle. Okay. Steady on. Yeah. Here, have a Star Trek pill. You'll feel better. So, but no, I like the idea of a utopia, and even then things go horribly wrong, or things don't change quite the way you think they are. But really,
the culture novels is that humanity in general are assholes in the culture novels because they are basically.
You wouldn't want to live with one, would you?
Yeah, no.
God.
The humans are the worst characters.
And then occasionally they'll have a precocious child, and it's just like, oh God, where's a pack of piranhas when you need it? Yeah. But all the good culture novels are where you see the culture interact with another neighbor, and the sparks and friction that are caused, and the insights that you get from that. So that's kind of cool. And I think there's an old short where they land on the culture arrives on 1970s Earth.
Yeah.
And one of the culture citizens decides to go native, and these powerful AIs are tearing their figurative hair out, trying to, why would you do that? They're all nuts down there. It's a Cold War. And he's going, no, they really believe and feel things. And it's like, I like that. That's how I got into the culture, from that short story. And then I started working my way through the novels. It's like a left-wing power fantasy, really. That's a nice change to the right-wing power fantasies that we usually
something
get.
that's a little more subtle than that. Check out the a long way to a small angry planet.
Okay.
Is a different. It's basically a similar sort of spacefaring series, but yeah, it focuses on characters and AI interaction without that douchebaggish. Like, it still talks about learning from other cultures and developing things, and humanity sharing things a little bit better.
I'd imagine if an AI had to stomp around in swamps and mud and sand dunes and the bush and stuff like that, it's like the old Mark Twain thing. You can imagine all kinds of things in your little black box, but experience, that would be the mark of an AI.
You might want to take a gander at Pantheon sometime as well.
Okay.
That's because that's dealing with UIs, uploaded intelligence.
Oh.
So yeah, it's really
Pantheon.
interesting.
Got it.
But what was the TV show? Upload as well.
Yeah. No, but this has like the first couple of UIs released all done in the world, and they're being gated like AI technology, and it's their search. It starts with their search for freedom and working out what they are, what they represent as well.
Yeah. Have you read any of? Oh, sorry.
Go on.
No, have you read any of Greg Egan's novels? Local WA author, science fiction guy.
I have, but it's been a while.
Permutation City. And so he was discussing stuff about someone gets uploaded to an artificial environment and they can't stand it. It's just horrible to be in. And he's got some wild and woolly ideas, and they're expressed very, very solidly, I thought.
Humanity can't handle it unless it's an asshole-ish 1999 simulation.
So what, you're saying 1999 wasn't
all their idea of an AI is basically the ultimate
peak of humanity.
badass.
That's the plot of the Matrix.
Yeah. The ultimate idea of an AI is a super duper gun nut in the Terminator. Yeah, it's like, what's the first thing an AI does? I think I'll just nuke everyone off the face of the planet. Like, why? Why would you do that? You'd hurt yourself. And what's the ultimate expression of badass of the ultimate creature? It's like, yeah, bang bang sticks. It's like, great thriller, great little franchise film, but when you think about it, you think that's not a very bright AI. Insects, mate. Flying insects. That would wipe out humanity. And you wouldn't have to nuke it off the face of the earth and worry about the wasteland. Keep all the factories. Things with boom boom guns, like, 6,000 rounds a second. Shit. If only I had some humans to make more bullets. Fuck.
Anyway, people. With that, we should wrap up. So I'm going to say goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
And goodbye from him. I'll catch you later. The Ronnies. Sorry, kids.
Bye.
Catch you later.
Bye.
Bye.